Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of our F1 25 career mode here on the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. Today we take on a sprint weekend here from Circuit of the Americas. So it's going to be an interesting one as the title fight continues to close between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. Now we have some news coming into this weekend. Regulation changes for the 2026 season have officially been confirmed, and it's going to affect two departments mainly, and yeah, it's going to be aerodynamics and durability. So chassis and powertrain will be unaffected as we now kind of shift some focus with this team. As you can see, McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull, all bringing some improvements into this weekend, but I feel like now it's time to shift our focus from improvements here for this season to now focusing on adapting parts for next season to make sure we're in a title contending spot, even potentially as soon as season 2 of this career mode. We have yet to sign a contract extension with Connor Sport, but I feel like we have done what we've needed to do behind the wheel of this car as a rookie, and same for my teammate of Aiden Jackson, of course, to where I think both of us could, be very much well considered to extend our deals with this team. And on top of that, I mean, we continue to see this team get better, and I really don't see myself right now looking for a future outside of Connor Sport. But we focus in on this weekend. We know now regulation changes are confirmed and on the way. And here we are in sprint qualifying, cruising through. George Russell actually out, and same for Carlos Sainz here in SQ1. But for us, we were pretty confident in the pace of this car. Now, one thing I would have liked to see is, because we know we're getting huge regulation changes in real life for 2026, I think it would have been really cool if the F1 game mandated that all departments had regulation changes and you had to adapt all the parts going into the next season. I think that really would have spiced things up going forward, but obviously, EA helping with this game, they don't really have the mental capacity to do anything actually good. So we round the final turn here in SQ2, and once again, putting together a pretty competitive pace, and we go well inside the top 10, P7, and it would be enough to get us through into SQ3, but my teammate Aiden Jackson out in SQ2, but Kimi Antonelli, after long struggles and confidence issues, has made it through into SQ3. How about that step up, while his teammate of George Russell was out in just the first qualifying session there. So very surprised to see that in a good way. You want to see Antonelli kind of finding that confidence, because he lost it, of course, midway through the season, and it has not returned. But could this be a sign of things changing there for the rookie Italian driver? As for myself here, SQ3, it was a bit of a mess, and it was a one and done type of lap, just not enough battery and not enough time to come back and get some new tires or anything, of course. So we're going to start the sprint from P10 as Max Verstappen's on pole, Lando Norris in P4. A good chance for Verstappen to gain a few points, as we're going to jump straight into the action here in the sprint. You guys know when we do sprint weekends, I like to kind of condense things down, because the sprints can really lengthen the just overall weekend. So as we come through into the sprint, look at this. Charles Leclerc has elected to go on to the softs, the lone wolf on the soft tires in front of his teammate of Lewis Hamilton, Norris in P4. How about Fernando Alonso as well, in the 5th position as we head towards the grid? So definitely keep an eye on Alonso, keep an eye on Leclerc. I think he's going to be really quick right out of the gate, but I don't know if it's going to last, as we line up right there behind Kimi Antonelli, my teammate of Aiden Jackson just behind. This has got to be the tightest teammate pairing of the season. Myself and Jackson have been so evenly matched, I feel like, all season long, that if you put us in a championship competitive car next season with Connor Sport, or season 3, maybe the more realistic approach, I think we are going to be both 1-2 in the championship. We're just that consistent with each other, and I think we're both world-class talents. We're going to continue to prove that here as we get ready for the sprint race here from Circuit of the Americas. It's going to be 5 red lights, a very quick hold. We're lights out, and we're racing from the sprint, and Jackson gets a good launch immediately down into turn 1, and I'm going to lunge one deep here up the inside of Oscar Piastri. Recent winner there from last episode, finally put a terrible season to an end with a win in Singapore. Jackson's gone around the outside, inside, and he's gone through into P7 from 11th. We've gone from only 10th to 9th position here, just behind the Australian of Piastri now, as we settle in here through the S's. Dirty air thrown onto the front nose of our car. Feels like you're driving a NASCAR next-gen car around this track, like they do, of course, in real life now. But early to the lead, as we came to the end of lap 1, it was Charles Leclerc on the softs, getting the launch over Verstappen and getting himself out in front. So Leclerc leads over Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, and Lando Norris. Now, as you can see, Jackson kind of struggling. Dirty air is a big thing here in Circuit of the Americas through this first sector with the S's, and you're not going to see, or you will see, several drivers be affected by this. But Lando Norris on lap 3, actually using DRS, he's going to be able to get past Lewis Hamilton around the outside here. He should be able to get past him, I would think, as Verstappen continues in P2. But you see Leclerc's got a multi-second gap right now, 2 seconds on Verstappen on those softs, but he's probably going to fade right at the tail end of this sprint here now, as we are lap 4 already, and nothing's changed in my situation since we got through turn 1. We're still P9 behind Oscar Piastri. They are fighting behind us between Albon and Antonelli, both trying to get into the top 10. Of course, in the sprints, it's only the top 8 that score points. And of course, it's only 1 point per position now in the sprint. So Verstappen could gain on Norris here, which would be crucial for a situation like these because Norris has been closing and closing and closing, and he was 3 races out of the championship. And now he is getting into the range of being within a race and having a chance to actually properly go out and maybe steal this title late in the season like he was trying to do last season. As we're actually going to have a spin out of turn number 1. That's the Haas of Esteban Ocon. The Frenchman gone around. Some get through. And actually, I believe that's Lawson. Liam Lawson's piled in. And now there's damage to both of the front noses, but it's within the final 5 laps, which means we will not see a safety car. And as that's going down, we come to lap 7. Max Verstappen gets through against Charles Leclerc. Lando Norris knows he does not want to give up 2 points. He is going to have to get to work on passing Leclerc now as we continue on. So Max Verstappen out in front. As that was all going down here, we actually come back a lap to lap 6, and you can see my teammate of Aiden Jackson actually was able to get through on Yuki Tsunoda. So now Jackson into P6, Tsunoda drops down to P7. We talked about Antonelli running a bit better in qualifying there, but he's actually dropped down the order. But Tsunoda is someone that's been struggling in the last few races as well, and here he is putting together a much better run, at least in the sprint. And now he's actually going to get back into the fight with my teammate of Aiden Jackson, as I might even have a chance here with 3 to go to maybe catch Oscar Piastri off guard and make a lunge here now as they continue wheel to wheel in front of us. Piastri fades out wide. We look up the inside, wheel to wheel here in towards the left-hander. Tsunoda's back through into the 6th position, and we'll go around the outside of the Australian. We'll move into P8, which is the final points position in the sprint. 2 to go now, and here comes Lando Norris firing one up the inside of Leclerc, but a contact there, wheel to wheel. Norris gets through into P2. Leclerc struggling on the softs, but he's not going to have enough time, I don't think, to run down the leader of Max Verstappen, who's on track to at least gain something on Norris here today, but it will only be a single point, of course, but 1 point could make all the difference when we get to Abu Dhabi, as these two continue wheel to wheel into the S's now. Jackson has to back out. I get hit with the dirty air from my teammate, and that opens the door for Piastri. He slips through, takes it, shuts the door, near contact on the front wing. We drop down to P9, and we now are trying to get back into position to steal the 8th position to get a single point as they continue to fight between Jackson and Yuki Tsunoda here as we head in towards the end of Sector 2. Now to begin Sector 3. Tsunoda on the right, Jackson on the left. I'm trying the same move I did on Piastri that worked very recently there just a couple of laps ago. This time it's not going to work. I just couldn't quite get the throttle down and get the car to grip up, so we have to stay behind him until the final lap. And Tsunoda's P7 looking to get Jackson. I don't think it's going to happen, and we are looking for maybe a bit of an aggressive move on Piastri, and the late lunge of the inside, near contact, but we get through without contact, and we make it clean up into P8, and he just hasn't had the speed here in the sprint as Max Verstappen rounds the final turn. He will take the sprint. Verstappen's back on top over Lando Norris, but of course it's only a 1 point difference that he just gained, because the sprint, well, it doesn't really mean a whole lot. So the Grand Prix is where you want to see Verstappen actually be back on form as we exit the final turn ourselves. It'll be P8, 1 single point My teammate Aiden Jackson outscores us by a few spots there. He gains 3 points on the day, setting us up well, at least for this weekend. We got P6, P8 here, respectively, in the sprint. Jackson went from 11th to get up to P6. Of course, he's going to be driver of the sprint here. But yeah, Max Verstappen gains a single point there over Lando Norris. Ferrari's looking pretty competitive. Alonso actually held on to P5 after starting there in that 5th position. Antonelli, unfortunately, drops from 10th to 14th and loses to his teammate of George Russell, who started P16. As you see, the gap now nearly 40 points from Verstappen to Lando Norris. But this weekend is just getting started. We're going to jump into qualifying now, and you see the constructors' points as well. McLaren, just like Norris, has made huge headways on Verstappen. McLaren's made huge headway on Red Bull. Q1, it was a breeze once again. We cruised through into Q2, and yeah, not really a contest there, as Jackson was all the way up there in P6. As you can see, Antonelli way slower, but he at least gets through into Q2. Not really any surprise exits there as we continue now into Q2. And this is where I started to struggle a little bit for pace compared to what I had in, say, SQ2 as we continue through our lap here in sector number 1. And you can see Aiden Jackson has currently put himself not inside the top 10, and that trend was going to continue, unfortunately, here with myself on the other side of Jackson as we round the final couple of turns, now heading towards that final left-hander and towards the front straightaway, and we're going to see what it's exactly going to be with the DRS open to the line. It's not going to be enough. We are P12. We are not going to advance into Q3, so a disappointment, and my teammate of Aiden Jackson goes no better. He ends up P14, so just like that, both of us just don't have the speed that we had in sprint racing there. So yeah, not exactly what we wanted to see.
In one of the fastest growing cities in the United States, the fabulous Austin in the great state of Texas. The circuit itself, 14 miles southeast of the city centre, has been home to the US Grand Prix since 2012, the latest in a long list of iconic tracks to have that honour. We have 10 turns to the left and 10 turns to the right here at the fantastic Circuit of the Americas. Overtaking opportunities into turn 1 and turn 12 at this anti-clockwise track. It's 3.6 miles long, and we should see average lap speeds of around 126 miles per hour. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Piastri, and Sir Lewis Hamilton, and Sainz, Albon, Fernando Alonso, Russell, and Lance Stroll, Ocon, Golden Boy, Yuki Tsunoda, and Jackson, Doohan, Antonelli, Isaac Hadjar, and Ollie Behrman, Gasly, Hülkenberg, Bortoletto, and Liam Lawson rounds off the grid. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
We're ready to hit the grid here. It's going to be a fortunately dry day. We're going to be starting on the mediums. We'll jump onto the hard compound tire. And I'm curious to see if we have a huge variation in strategy or not today.
The formation lap gets underway, and every driver will be looking to settle in for the race ahead, making sure that their car is ready for the battle once the lights go out.
And the answer is no. We only have one car on the sauce. Pierre Gasly, everybody else electing to go onto the mediums, including pole winner Lando Norris in front of Max Verstappen, crucially into turn 1.
So as all the cars take their positions on the grid, the teams will be hoping their strategies pay off for them in today's race. But the question I'm asking is which teams have got it right, which ones have got it horribly wrong?
Right, guys, not the speed we wanted, coming into today compared to what we had in the sprint, but we know it's there somewhere, so we'll work for it. You hear my comments on the radio towards the team, and now we're ready to hit the lights and get ready to go racing here from the second of still 3 United States Grand Prix on the season, headed to the streets of Vegas soon enough as we are ready to go green from the 12th starting position. A bit longer hold compared to the sprint. It's going to be lights out. We're racing here from Circuit of the Americas now as we look to do the same thing we did in the sprint. That's lunge it up the inside 3 wide and maybe gain a spot or 2 out of it here as we go up the inside of Fernando Alonso. The pair of of Williams wheel to wheel, and same for the Ferraris. Bit of contact with the Aston Martin's actually going to do a bit of floor damage, but fortunately it's going to be minor, so that shouldn't affect us too much as we're wheel to wheel with George Russell. Way better start for him compared to the sprint we get through on the British driver, and we now settle into the top 10 running positions now as you see the rest of this field fan out and get single file and get sorted out, get kind of, blended in, you could say, a bit of side-by-side action actually towards the back, but Lando Norris did what he needed to do on the start of this Grand Prix. He held the lead, so he's in good shape. Max Verstappen still right up there as well, and it's going to be a duel today between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. Who is going to come out on top? Red Bull have brought some improvements into this weekend, but so have McLaren and so have Ferrari. The question is, though, is Red Bull's improvements maybe a little bit better than the ones that McLaren have brought, because McLaren have been improving a lot in the recent races, and it's made the difference, of course, in terms of the running positions and the capabilities of Lando Norris and even as well Oscar Piastri, and I expect Oscar Piastri to be a way more of a threat now that it seems like he's kind of getting back into his form. I think he's going to be a big threat for the rest of this season and especially next season as well, so watch out for Oscar Piastri to be a threat in 2026. Now 2025, it's coming down between two guys. It's Max Verstappen and it's Lando Norris now, and Norris is still nearly 40 points behind, so he has to look at this as a must-win situation, and what will help him in this situation is his teammate of Oscar Piastri with DRS here going around the outside of Max Verstappen to drop him down into the third position. That will be crucial to make this a McLaren 1-2. Verstappen drops to third, Norris in current position to win, but it's very, very early in this race here. Only on lap 3, of course, 28 laps of racing. Now, personally, this is a track I don't like. I've never liked Circuit of the Americas. Honestly, all 3 tracks on the schedule that are in the USA, I just don't like. I don't like driving Miami, I don't like driving COTA, and I really hate driving Las Vegas. I know Las Vegas is a pretty straightforward track. There's just something about the flow and the way the corners are in Vegas. I just don't like that circuit. So anytime we come to the USA here in F1 games, I'm just kind of hanging on. I kind of wish we would go to the layout that NASCAR runs of Circuit of the Americas, because I actually really like their layout, which is just like a short version, and it's really cool. But as we come to lap 5, under some serious pressure here from Fernando Alonso, and I had drained my battery down to about 30%, and if I was going to stay ahead of him at this point, I would have to drain it down to like 0%, and then I'd be super vulnerable, on the next front straightaway. So I decided to just kind of bite the bullet and let him take the spot as we drop to 9th. Jackson has actually moved past Stroll into P10. Aston Martin with the Adrian Newey, of course, signing. They're making a difference late in this season, and we're seeing, just teams go back and forth. Connor Sport, we had our swing of where we went way up the R&D and had some great runs. I mean, nearly podiums, just a few races back, and now we're kind of getting the reality check of Connor Sport, not being the only team progressing forward late in the season. Aston Martin, Williams have been doing it, so we're getting humbled a little bit here, but we're still running better than where we started, and that's in the points now. As you see, Fernando Alonso actually makes a move right there on Carlos Sainz, and Stroll has gotten back in front of Jackson. Those two continue to scrap it out as we come to lap 8, and you can see it looks like Carlos Sainz is actually kind of struggling for pace here as we continue to age these medium tires, and Fernando Alonso's only getting stronger there. I mean, the 40-plus-year-old driver, two-time champion in Formula One, continues to show that he's one of the few drivers in the world that can be at his age and still compete in a top motorsport at a top level. He is running well inside the top 10 in a car that's not capable of competing for podiums, and he's putting himself in a great position right now as we continue to put some pressure on the back of Carlos Sainz. And as we come to lap 10, down the long DRS straight here on the back straightaway, we are pretty close to Sainz. We should be able to get him right here with the DRS assistance now as Jackson's back up into the top 10. Russell and P11 past Stroll. We breeze past the Williams of Carlos Sainz. Williams with that shock win a few races back in Zandvoort in the Dutch Grand Prix with Carlos Sainz. I mean, what a race, what a day that was for Williams that nobody saw coming. As we come to lap 11, we have actually run back down Fernando Alonso, so the late run speed in this car is quite impressive right now, and I was very, very happy with the just overall grip that I had late in this run. As we come to lap 13, we're actually going to be boxing at the end of of this 13th lap. So I wasn't really in too much of a rush to pass Fernando Alonso, and I was content just kind of maintaining behind him for the rest of the lap, because also there's not really a real passing opportunity for the rest of this lap anyways, unless you try something desperate in this corner right here. So Alonso actually slides out of the corner, saves it now as Oscar Piastri is going to pit from second, and Max Verstappen's going to follow him into the pits as well. They were pretty close to Norris, so they both might leapfrog the British driver there, and we're going to come into the pits. Alonso's actually going to stay out. I was a bit surprised by that, but we're going to come in. We'll get down to the 50 miles per hour, pretty close there on the speed limit, and we'll come in. We're going to remove these pretty worn up mediums now, and we'll be, of course, getting on the hard compound tire and going to the end of this race, and we've basically run half of this Grand Prix. Actually had a late turn in. I just kind of got caught sleeping there. So the hards go on, and we'll get back rolling here now and look to make a difference on this fresh hard rubber now. As you can see, Alex Albon a little bit further up the road. He's having a great race as well, as we come out just in front of Kimi Antonelli, who's having a way worse effort than he did in the sprint. But although he had a great effort in qualifying in the sprint, we saw that he drifted down the order as the race went on, and it's still definitely a lack of confidence there as Norris pits one lap later. He gets the hards on. Hamilton comes into the pits as well. Fernando Alonso, Carlos Sainz are all going to pit. Look at this. Norris comes out behind Piastri and Verstappen. That's crucial for those guys to get in front of him, specifically, of course, Max Verstappen. The question is, does Norris have enough to run Verstappen back down and pass him before this race is over, or is this now in the perfect seat for Max Verstappen to be able to outscore Norris all weekend long as we come out right alongside Fernando Alonso? We'll get in front of him, but the question is, how long is this going to last? Because we know that once again, that Aston Martin's got some good speed, and it didn't last long. And Fernando's going to go right by me down this long back straightaway. This was one I could have fought, but I didn't really see a point in fighting his pace at this point in the race. I mean, we're just basically past halfway. It didn't really make a lot of sense to really fight that one. So what we're going to do now is try to maintain contact with Fernando Alonso. As we know, we saw it in the first run on the mediums. The hards, of course, could be different, but we saw it in the first run. We came on really strong at the end of that tire life on the mediums, so we might be able to do the same thing and replicate that on the hards and have a late race push against Fernando Alonso, trying to make sure Carlos Sainz doesn't run us down. Same for George Russell. Right now, my teammate of Aiden Jackson outside of the points, unfortunately. He's currently in P11, so he's got some work to do as we're already approaching lap 18 in a very calm race here. Singapore last episode was by far the most boring race of the career mode so far. Nothing really happened. But speaking of things not happening, well, that's not happening here, because here we go. Max Verstappen is going to go around the outside of Oscar Piastri into turn 1, lap 19. A bit of contact between the two drivers. This is far from over now as they head into the S's, and Piastri, I think, is going to have the job done. He will, and Verstappen still following him through the S's is going to get hit by the dirty air. This could change everything. Norris slips through. He takes the position. A few moments later down the back straightaway, DRS opportunity for Lewis Hamilton, and he's going to get past Max Verstappen. So Verstappen goes from trying to take the lead to 4th in just a matter of about 45 seconds. And now Lando Norris, up to P2, has a chance to go take the win away from his teammate within the final 10 laps of the Circuit of the Americas United States Grand Prix. And Max Verstappen is going to really be questioning himself on that one, as he very well might have just thrown away a very large opportunity to just kind of minimize the damage and you know, turn things around. But now I'm not convinced that things are going to turn around for Verstappen. So it's just, yeah, not a good situation there. But he's still got time to try and bounce back here before this race comes to a close. But I just don't see it happening. As for myself, less than 10 laps to go at this point. Lap 21 of 28. And, you know, we're mitigating the gap pretty well to Carlos Sainz and George Russell. We're staying right here tucked up to the back of Fernando Alonso as we continue on. So we're in a pretty good position to just kind of finish out this race, and I think we're going to have a very real opportunity to go and pass Alonso here before this race ends. And speaking of passing, Lando Norris around the outside here as they head down the straightaway, and now through the right-hander. Here's Leclerc in the background. I haven't even realized this. Leclerc's gotten through on Verstappen, so Verstappen's dropped to 5th. It's these two continue to scrap it out now. And who's going to give? Piastri doesn't really care that Lando Norris is going for a championship, but it doesn't matter. Norris gets through on a lap fresher tire, and he will take the lead and try to drive away. And then, of course, put himself that much closer to Verstappen, as we are going to try and replicate the same thing. Go around the outside of Alonso, but a little bit too deep into the corner. Alonso's able to stay ahead for now. I actually completed my objective there, getting in front of Alonso by a nose. So nonetheless, we took a shot, didn't quite work, but I think we were going to have another chance pretty soon as we're into the final 5 laps of this race. And you see Carlos Sainz not terribly far back at this point, but as we head down the DRS straight, again an opportunity. This time I'm going up the inside of the Spaniard, and we've made the pass on the 2-time champion there and move ourselves up into P7. The question now is, we still got a lot of racing. Can we get out of the DRS of Fernando Alonso and therefore try to just run away? Of course, we got no pace to go and run down anybody else at this point, so it's just about trying to hang on to P7. We know we're going to be P7 or P8 here today. That's just going to come down to timing, I feel like, and we held on the front straightaway, but through lap 25, through sector 1, Alonso's still tucked up here right behind me, and I just don't have what I need to get away. So as we head down the next DRS straight, I only have 30% battery, don't want to drain it. Alonso's going to go back through. So now the mindset is, okay, let's just time this right to make sure we can beat him. Also on top of that, make sure we save up a little bit of battery if possible, and that will allow us to just kind of, maybe get ahead of him a lap early and then try to defend. As we come to lap 26, I was so close to the back of him again that I really couldn't resist. We're going to go for a move here, and we might even clear him again before we get to the apex. Yes, we do. We clear him into the braking zone, and we take the spot, but we haven't really saved up the battery, so I'm not quite sure if I would be able to drive away when I completed that pass compared to what we just saw a few laps back. So I knew that this was still going to be a challenge. Meanwhile, up front, Lando Norris is driving away, so he's under no pressure, as we had actually opened up a decent gap coming to the final lap finally here on Fernando Alonso. I was able to keep him back for these last couple of laps, and now we start this final lap just trying to do the same thing, and he's just not quite close enough now to really pressure us. And I've gotten my battery up to 50% on the long back straightaway, and he's now under pressure from Carlos Sainz. We have driven away. He's falling off just like he did in that first run on the medium. So now we just got to get down to the braking zone, and I completely drained my battery, but if we can get into the apex without having a lunge from Alonso, it should be over, and we survive. Now up front, Lando Norris out of the final turn. He's gonna win. Verstappen went from going for the lead to dropping ultimately to the 5th position. Significant damage done to his point lead from Lando Norris as we round the final few turns, and it's going to be one heck of an effort here today from Circuit of the Americas. We'll round the final turn, take it home for P7. Very, very content with a 7th place effort. I honestly don't really think we could have done anything better. I feel like we finished better than really where this car was capable of today. I felt like it was more like a 9th to 10th place car, but Pierre Gasly, he will be awarded with Driver of the Day.
Here's the checkered flag. The fans rise to their feet. It's Lando Norris for victory.
What a race. There wasn't really any chaos, but it was just really interesting and thrilling to watch this kind of Lando Norris, Max Verstappen situation progress. And now we're going into the final handful of races. We take on Mexico in the next episode. We still got Brazil, we got Vegas, we got Qatar, we got Abu Dhabi. We still have 5 races left. Verstappen, he could still maybe come back and win a race and help himself out a little bit, but Lando Norris could still have 4 races after that to really do some damage. So it's going to be interesting. I really didn't see this coming. In the middle of the season, we had pretty much lost hope as George Russell got scored with a DNF after crossing the line in P10, which improves my teammate of Aiden Jackson to 10th. That's a bug. Russell did cross the line in P10 and then got a DNF after. I don't know why that happened, but it just gave our team a free point. Look at the gap. It's now less than a race. Norris cuts it to 23 points. It is game on with 5 races to go. Constructors, McLaren takes the lead. They are now 23 points ahead of Red Bull. We head into Mexico in the next episode. It's going to be a thriller. I'll see you guys then. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.